Welcome back, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. Please be at least 18 or whatever the legal age is in the state where you reside. This is episode 15 of At Home with Craig, and there's quite a bit to get unpacked. So let's dive in right away. As I said, this is episode 15. I see a lot of people on various blogs and forums and whatnot asking about how many episodes should be in a season. Is there a good number? Is there an absolute number? I've always maintained it's your show. It's your thing. Do what you want. Do as you will. And to quote my child, do as one does. In this case, I think 15 is a good number. I never really thought I'd get this far when I started way back on episode 1. Especially if you followed me for a while, you've seen my track record. I'm not the most dedicated, on time, what's the word I'm looking for? It'll come to me eventually. But I'm not the most accurate and time-sensitive person in the world. I do a podcast. I say I'll be back in a day or a week or two or whatever. And I know if you've listened to more than one show, you've heard this spiel before. I've gotten better. This will be my third one in about a 2-week span, which is really good for me. For others, it sucks. I know people that do a podcast every day, and God bless you, sir or madam. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you come up with that much content. I don't know how you stand to talk to yourself for 15 minutes to a half hour. I don't get it. I find myself struggling, and I write down my liner notes, and I do all these things, and I have ideas in my head, and I'll jot it down on a napkin or scrap piece of paper. I've got Post-its everywhere with talk about this, talk about that. And it's crazy. And I start with a topic and it goes askew. I don't know how it happens, but it happens week after week. And here we are again. And I'm rambling. I want to start off with a couple of things first. First of all, my friend on Facebook, she listened to my podcast and she said it sounded great and she enjoyed it. And she said, I did not sound like I was rambling, which is a good thing because I think I ramble a lot. Maybe I don't. Maybe it's just too much pressure I put on myself. But thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. And God bless you for saying that and keeping me going. Second note is my friend Rick, someone I went to high school with. We were good friends in high school, and we've maintained a friendship over the years. He went off and did some Marine things. I went off and did some Navy things. And we kind of lost touch for a while. Then we hooked up back on Facebook. And I think there was a high school site, Classmates or something. I forget. I stopped using that site because I wasn't going to pay to read emails from somebody that I vaguely or not at all remembered from high school. And I'm thinking like, look, dude or dudette, if we haven't talked in all this time, I'm certainly not going to pay $6.99 a month for the occasional email where you send something that says, hey, what's up? I don't remember you. I don't know you probably, so I see no reason to continue. Anyway, Rick said he had listened to my podcast and he asked me to go over my cancer story, my diagnosis and subsequent surgeries and everything. And I did that in a blog post, which is on medium.com. If you want to read it, I will put a link in the show notes and you can check it out. The upshot is I had cancer back in 2000, 2001-ish. I went through a lot of trouble to schedule the surgery. The insurance company, I forget, it was one of those blue companies, I think. At the time, they said, no, we're not going to approve it because I had the surgery approved. I had the doctor approved. The surgeon, and I had the facility where it was going to happen. And I was lucky enough to have the guy who handled the surgery for Lance Armstrong. So I figured Lance is doing all right. And I may never be a professional bike rider, but what the heck? He's got a good track record. I'm in good hands, literally. So I eventually got them to agree that it was not an elective surgery and my body was actively trying to kill me. My friend Wendy can attest to what that's like because she went through not a similar surgery, but a surgery in the same geographic location, more or less. Different plumbing, same idea. So I had the surgery and I recovered and I went through 18 rounds of radiation. I do not recommend it. Although if given a choice of radiation or chemotherapy, I will always opt for the radiation because I didn't feel sick all the time. Not as bad as chemo would have done anyway, and my hair didn't fall out. So double bonus there. Everything went fine. I thought I was cancer free, although what they don't tell you when you get cancer is for the rest of your natural days, anytime there's a lump or a bruise or a mark or you don't feel right or something feels off in your body, you're always going to wonder, oh my God, what is that? Has that always been there? Is that new? Am I dying again? I don't know what's going on. And there's a lot of trips to the doctor and the oncologist where they look at you like you're crazy and no, there's nothing wrong with you. Don't worry about it. Go home, get out of here. You're fine. So flash forward to about 2018-ish. I did the same self-exam I did the first time and I found another lump. It was teeny tiny. One might even say it was infinitesimal. It's a cool word. I like that word. So I contacted the American Cancer Society. I've got a patient navigator. So I can't speak today. Sorry. Her name was Janet Reimer, and she was a godsend because I was panicking. I was freaking out on the phone, and she calmed me down. She said, "Don't worry about it. We're going to get you see a doctor. We're going to get scheduled. We're going to do all these things for you." So she found the surgeon, the urologist I went to. He was a great guy. If you're in Greenville and you get a chance to go to that urology center, absolutely go there because he's wonderful. So he did the exam and he found a lump. He said, "Yeah, we need to get you to an oncologist." So I went and saw the oncologist at the hospital there in Greenville, and he did the exam. And because it was a learning hospital or teaching hospital, because the School of Medicine was literally right next door, he had some students come in and they did the exam. And I'm like, do I mind? No, go ahead. I'm too old to be embarrassed by this at this age anyway. So they did the exam. They're kind of like going back and forth and like, are you sure? And even the oncologist was asking me, I don't see anything or I don't feel anything. Are you sure it's there? And I'm like, look, dude, I've been through this before. I know what it feels like. I know my body. There's something there. Let's move on to the next step. So eventually he said, all right, let's get you into an ultrasound. I went and had that done and they found a mass. Hooray. I'm not crazy. Went back to him. And he said, oh, I guess you were right. And I'm thinking, well, of course I was. I told you this the first time and you chose not to listen. And I'm sure that oncologists get a lot of people coming in there freaking out. Oh my God, there's a lump, there's a tumor, I'm dying, whatever. But, if the patient tells you that I've been through this before and I have experience with this, maybe spend 30 seconds and listen to him and don't treat him like he's an idiot or he's crazy. So I had the surgery. Everything went well. I didn't need radiation or chemo this time because we caught it like super early because it was a teeny tiny mass, barely discernible on the ultrasound. So it hadn't had time to grow or spread or anything. But my urologist said, I'd like you to have at least one round of chemo to make sure we wiped everything out. And this is an important lesson for you. If you ever have to deal with this kind of doctor again or oncologist, stand your ground and, assert yourself and be your own best advocate. Because when I told him this, he said, no, I don't want to do that. And that was the end of the discussion. As far as he was concerned, he was done with me. Let me back up a little bit. Before I saw him that day, he sent in one of his student doctors. And I had nothing against the guy. He's probably a great doctor now, but at the time he looked like he was 12. And he had spent 30 seconds in the hallway with my chart before he came in, and he couldn't answer basic questions about my procedure or what the next steps were. So eventually, after staring at him for a little while, he said, let me get the doctor, and he did. And I'm thinking, okay, great. So we had that conversation about what next, and he wouldn't even listen to me. He wouldn't entertain the idea that maybe I should do this, and maybe he had a valid reason not to, but he never gave me that choice. He never said, I don't want to do it, and this is why. So I didn't do it. I didn't do anything about it. And I went, all right, great, fine, whatever. And then he started calling me for follow-ups, and I kept putting the appointments off, and I kept putting them off. And eventually his nurse called me, and I said, I'm not coming back. As far as I'm concerned, he's fired. And she said, why? And I relayed to her what had gone on and why I had done what I did. And she said, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. And she said she understood. So that was the end of that. I went back to my friend Janet, and she talked to the hospital again, the oncology department, and she got me in to see the head of oncology. And now he was going to be my primary contact person and everything. And he was good. He was very good at what he did. He listened to my concerns. He sent me for the follow-ups and the ultrasounds and everything, and the CAT scans, which are no big deal, in and out, not a problem. And I've been free and clear ever since. So thank God for that. And I've been doing well. Now, that doesn't mean to say that I don't still freak out about lumps and bumps and everything, because I do. And that's going to be that way until I die. And 99% of the time, they're probably nothing. If you've ever been fortunate enough to have a mammogram, I do not recommend it. I had to have one. Yeah, I know. He's a dude. Why is he having that done? Because I found a lump in my chest. Actually, I found a couple lumps, and they turned out to be nothing, according to the mammogram people. But I still had to have it done. I do not recommend it. I don't know how women do it. I thank God that they do, because it does save lives. So I'm very happy that they do that. So, I think that's a great thing. Get the exams done. If you find something that doesn't belong, you think, why is that there? Or whatever, schedule an appointment. You may be considered crazy by whoever you see, but if you don't, you'll never know. And, you could wind up saving your own life by doing this. It takes almost no time at all. There's plenty of websites out there to talk about how dudes can do the self-exam. I'm not going to go into it here because this is a family-friendly show, mostly. And we'll leave it at that. But yeah, absolutely get it done. If you have sons, convince them to do it. It may be embarrassing for 30 seconds, but you'll get over it and you'll be fine. And when the kid is older, you can both laugh about it. Remember that time when, and you'll have a good laugh and you'll share a beer or whatever you choose to do at that point. So what else? There's other things. Like I said, this will be the last episode in this series. I don't know what season 2 is going to bring. I don't know if I'm going to do anything differently. I will try to be more consistent. I am creating a YouTube channel under this name. Well, it'll be close because apparently someone stole my name and made a Gmail account out of it. So it'll be athomewithcraig1@gmail.com. So you'll be able to find me at home with Craig1 on YouTube very soon. And I may not do a lot of videos. I may just do some audiograms or something to get the channel going. And eventually I may do a Zoom interview with somebody. I want to do interviews in the next season and get some more people in here and talking to me so I don't have to talk to myself and you don't have to listen to me drone on for 15 or 20 minutes talking about who knows what, because it changes from day to day what it's going to be. Oh, right. There's my brain again. Thank you, chemo brain. It's an odd statement, and it doesn't mean that I necessarily had chemo. It's just a statement or a phrase that cancer survivors use, because when you have cancer and you have these treatments done to your body, it messes up chemistries. It messes up brain chemistry. I know I'm kind of out there in left field sometimes, or right field, or wherever. I'm out there because my brain chemistry is not the same anymore. So my memory is shot. I have mood swings that are crazy. Although I'm getting better at it, I'm learning how to recognize the signs, and I'm dealing with it and shutting it down before it gets too far, because there are days where I'd be like locked in this state of panic and freaking out. And, I'd have a meltdown. I say meltdown, but I would have an episode in the middle of a grocery store because I couldn't decide on what kind of cookies to buy or what kind of soup to buy or whatever. I would just sit there and stare at the shelf, literally for minutes at a time, locked in this state of indecision. And ultimately, I knew it wasn't life or death. And eventually I would pick an item that I wanted or needed, and I would be fine. But that moment of fear, anyway, that's part of what I call the chemo brain experience, where you're not quite the same person you were before the procedure. I'm not saying you're good or evil or whatever. You don't really change that much, but there are changes that you will notice. And other people may notice in your life that, why is he different now? Why is she different now? Whatever. And it all falls back to this. So that's definitely a thing. Squirrel moment. Sorry, I got distracted. Shiny objects out the window, you know? So where was I? Oh, in the last episode, I quoted a pastor, a preacher. I'm not really sure what to call him. And someone had pointed out to me that maybe I should check into who I'm quoting. And it turns out that he's one of those prosperity gospel kinds of guys. Now, I'm not knocking you. I'm not saying you're wrong. Draw your own conclusions. I don't believe in the prosperity Bible. I don't believe that God set us up to pray and make things happen, like, you know, monetarily or with stuff, you know, with materialistic things. I'm not saying that God doesn't bless us, because he absolutely does bless us every day that you call on him and you rely on him. You'll find more blessings than you could have ever imagined. And in the past, however many months it's been, the closer I draw to him, the better I feel, the better I am. My health is better. I'm doing things that I've never done before, and I'm stepping out into faith. You know, it's like walking up to the edge of a cliff and saying, all right, there's nothing there, and looking up in heaven, pointing to the big guy and saying, all right, I know I don't see anything, but I'm trusting you. I know you've got me, and stepping out and landing on a bridge or a walkway or something that holds you up and keeps you from falling. And I believe that's really what faith is believing in the things that you can't see or touch or hear or anything, but you trust God enough to say, I trust you, I'm going to do it. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that you're not going to be afraid of it, because heaven knows there's a lot of things I do. And I really think that that's a good definition of bravery, is being scared and doing it anyway, or maybe courage or whatever. But you get my point. Doing things that you're afraid of and realizing that, all right, I was afraid. There was no reason for me to be. I did the thing, and now I'm better, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. And that's just the way it is. So there's been a lot of things that I've stepped out on faith. I made big changes in my life recently. I'm not going to go into them here because I'm not in a place where I can talk about them yet. It'll be coming soon. It'll be in a future episode somewhere. Maybe by season 3. I don't know. We'll see how it happens. We'll see when God taps me on the head and says, okay, it's time to talk about this now, and let's get this information out in the open. Not that I want to be all secretive or ninja-like or anything. It's not the time to talk about it yet. So anyway, he's a prosperity guy, and he believes fully in, if I want it bad enough, it will manifest itself, and it's putting more reliance on ourselves and more reliance on the world than we do on God. I think that's wrong, and you'll never convince me otherwise, that we should rely on our own resources and our own thing to get through. I think we need God every day. Constantly, we need God in our lives. And I don't believe in this. And there are other famous preachers or pastors out there, or men of God, and I use that term very loosely, excuse me, who are preaching this. If you look them up, you'll find them. One of the guys, when there was a big flood where his church was, he refused to let the unwashed masses in that were removed from their homes because of the flood, or relocated because of the flood, or whatever. Yeah, I have an issue with that. Because ultimately, he said, I don't want them in my church. I'm not going to open up my church. And maybe he paid for the building while his congregation paid for the building. Went from, all right, I'm going to say it, and this is controversial, when he built them for the money that he got to build the church, they built the church, not him. And ultimately, I don't believe that a church necessarily has to be a building or in a building. But if it is, it's God's house. It's not your house. He's letting you use it. And he may not do anything to you now, but you better believe, buddy, when the final day comes and he's judging you, he's going to remember the things you did in his name. And he's going to be like, I didn't like what you did. And then eventually you will have to answer to that. We all will. Whether you're an atheist or not, agnostic, whatever, I fully believe that at some point we all face him, and we all have to account for all the things we did in our lives, good and bad, all the times that we didn't talk about him when we should have, or when we dissed him, and we shouldn't, never ever diss God, because that's never going to be a good thing. Quick story about that. On the sub I was on many moons ago, maybe even before some of you listening were born, the sub operated at a certain depth. We always on this depth, 150 feet, 400 feet, whatever it was. I'm not giving away any secrets here. I will say that we operated in excess of 150 feet and leave it at that. But one of the people on board the sub said, God has no jurisdiction at X amount of feet wherever the sub was at. And at that exact moment, something caused one of the main breaker buses to open and all the lights went out in this spot in the sub where he was at. I'm sure that it was a mechanical thing or something, but I think it also may have been God saying, oh, really? All right. Well, let me tell you, buddy, no matter where you go in the heights or the depths of the ocean, God is there. And you should live your life like God is always there with you. I'm sorry I rambled a little bit at the end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, it's just my 2 cents worth. Your mileage may vary. Thanks for listening. God bless, and I love you all.